Good evening, traveler. I am Silas Whitmore, your quiet companion on this winding road through the shadowed corners of history. Tonight, we walk softly into one of humanity's most dreadful chapters, a tale soaked in dread and whispered through empty streets, the world of the plague body collectors. Picture a town in the grip of the Black Death. The bells toll endlessly, not for worship, but for warning. The air carries the heavy odor of sickness, a foul blend of decay and smoke. Doors are barred windows, shuttered, yet death still creeps in. And when it does, it is not priests or grieving kin who arrive, it is the collectors. Men cloaked in rough, tattered layers, their faces veiled with cloth soaked in vinegar, pulling creaking carts along cobblestone alleys. They do not speak. They do not linger. They simply knock on doors, lift the silent, and vanish into the mist, leaving only the sound of wooden wheels grinding over the stones. It was not a trade one chose out of ambition. It was the work of the desperate, the condemned, and the forgotten. Their pay was pitiful, their lives brief, and their only companionship, the shadows that followed them home. Yet without their grim duty, the living could not have endured the great pestilence at all. So as you lie beneath your blankets, the world around you quiet and still, let us drift together into their story. A story not of heroes or kings, but of those who walked with death and counted each sunrise as a small miracle. And as ever, dear listener, if this tale sends a chill down your spine, leave a 1 in the comments. If it does not, well, kindly click the like button before sleep finds you. The morning does not arrive with warmth. There is no gentle sunlight falling through a curtain, no birdsong to stir you from your sleep. Only the hollow, distant toll of an iron bell. Its sound rolls along the narrow streets, heavy and deliberate, each strike a reminder of what awaits. It is not a call to prayer. It is the summons to work. And for you, that work is the one task no soul desires, the cart, the hook, and the dead. You were not born to this. No one ever is. You are not a craftsman, nor a soldier, nor a farmer with sturdy ground beneath your feet. You were simply hungry. Last winter, when the earth yielded little but rot and blackened stalks, when frost clawed through your bones, and the rats grew bolder than the people hunger, pushed you toward the only labor left. The city did not ask for your name or your past, only for your hands. Hands willing to drag a cart through streets, lined with silent doorways and shuttered windows. Hands willing to gather those who would never again draw breath. The silver is meager enough for coarse bread and maybe a turnip. Never enough to buy forgetfulness, nor to wash away the stench that clings to your skin long after the sun dips below the rooftops. The overseer spoke few words when you began. He pressed into your arms a heavy wool cloak, stiff from the grime of those who wore it before. He gave you a strip of rag soaked in sour vinegar to tie across your mouth, the only shield you have against the foul air. And he handed you a long wooden pole, tipped with a rusted iron hook. For the doors, he said. But you learned quickly, it is not only for doors. It is for the bodies. To lift them from beds, to drag them from shadowed corners when no kin remains to touch them. The streets now stretch before you silent, save for the faint groan of your cart's wheels, and here and there, the coughing echo of some soul not yet claimed. The other collectors walk at your side, wrapped in their cloaks, their faces veiled, their eyes fixed on the stones beneath their boots. None speak. To speak would be to acknowledge the dread, and dread, once named, grows teeth. Up ahead, a shutter creaks open. A pale hand drops a scrap of parchment marked with charcoal onto the cobblestones. It drifts in the cold morning air before settling near your feet. A sign. Death has passed through that house. You tighten your grip on the cart's handle, its wood slick with mist, and move forward. It is the first stop of the day, and perhaps the first step toward a night you may not live to see. The day begins not with sound, but with smell. It creeps in before your cart turns the corner, curling through the alleys like a living thing. The stench is not sharp nor quick. It is heavy, clinging a weight upon the chest. It is the smell of a city dying one house at a time. The air is thick sour with the mix of smoke rot and something sweeter that no one dares name. Fires burn in the streets, fed by heaps of straw and herbs meant to purify the air. They do not. The smoke only folds itself into the scent of decay, a bitter perfume that follows you with every breath. Somewhere close, a dog whines. It is not the sound of hunger, but fear. Even the animals know this place is wrong. Every few steps, the cart rattles over a broken stone, and the motion stirs the air around you. The smell rises again, stronger, as if the earth itself exhales sickness. Your rag soaked in vinegar dampens the worst of it, but only barely. It is a thin barrier, and the sourness of the cloth soon mixes with the other odors, becoming a taste that settles on the back of your tongue. You breathe through your mouth, but that only makes it worse. The streets, once loud with vendors and neighbors, are hushed now. Windows are shuttered, doors bolted from within. A painted mark black, or sometimes red stains certain door frames warnings to those like you. Behind those doors, the air is worse still. You know what waits a single figure sprawled upon a bed, or perhaps two tangled together in stillness. The first breath inside such a room is always the hardest, a mixture of cold air and the unmistakable heaviness of death. You do not linger. You cannot. To stay is to breathe too deeply, and to breathe too deeply is to tempt the same fate as those you lift. Your pole's hook catches cloth, and with a slow practiced pull, the body slides free. It lands upon the cart without a sound, only a soft thud against the wood, soon joined by others before the morning wanes. Around you, the city exhales in silence, a silence broken only by the creak of wheels, the shuffle of boots, and the distant toll of the bell. The smell does not leave. It will not leave. It seeps into your cloak, your skin, your hair. And long after this day ends, long after you lie down in your own bed, it will follow you, still curling in the dark like a ghost you cannot shake. The work is simple in name, yet every tool you carry feels like an anchor to a darker world. Your cloak, heavy and stiff, hangs from your shoulders like wet wool, its coarse fibers forever saturated with the stench of smoke and sickness. It does not protect you from the plague. Nothing truly can. It is only there to shield your skin from the touch of the dead, to keep the damp of the morning from sinking straight into your bones. The weight is not just of fabric, but of days past layers of grime ash and the faint, sour memory of those who wore it before you. The rag tied across your face is no more comforting. Vinegar seeps into every breath, burning your nostrils and dulling the edges of the air's foulness, though never enough. It is not a mask of safety, but a talisman, a ritual born of desperation more than reason. Each inhale tastes of acid and decay, a reminder that the plague does not care for barriers stitched by human hands. Then there is the pole, long, sturdy wood, smoothed by countless palms, ending in a crooked iron hook. At first, the overseer called it a tool for doors, for moving shutters or lifting latches without touch. But you soon learned its truer purpose. It is for the bodies. To catch at a sleeve, a collar, or whatever remains unspoiled enough to hold so that you do not have to press your hands against cold, waxen skin. The sound of fabric tearing is common now, followed by the dull, sliding weight of the departed across the floorboards. Your cart itself is a tool, though a cursed one. Its wheels shriek when they turn, no matter how much grease you smear on the axles, and the planks warped by weather and burden groan under every new load. It is not just a cart, it is a rolling coffin without a lid, carrying strangers side by side in uneasy stillness. When the day is done, the smell of it lingers in your hands, no matter how often you scrub. Each item you carry is simple, crude, and meant only to keep your hands busy and your feet moving. None of it truly keeps the plague at bay. It is not safety they give you, but routine. And sometimes in the quiet, before the next door opens, routine is the only thing that holds your mind together. Ahead, another alley waits, narrow, silent, its shadows long in the morning light. Somewhere within, a shutter will open, and a mark will fall to the stones. The next house calls, and your tools will soon find use again. The next street is narrower than the last, a crooked lane where the buildings lean, as though whispering secrets to each other. The cobblestones are damp, darkened by the morning mist, and each step your boots take echoes louder than it should, as though the city itself is holding its breath. Somewhere above, a shutter creaks. You glance up, but see only a sliver of pale wood and the faint sway of a rope where yesterday's laundry once hung. No faces. Not anymore. You stop before a door marked with a rough black smear, a line drawn by some trembling hand to warn passers-by death within. The wood is splintered, the hinges rusted, but the silence behind it is heavier than the air outside. You lift the pole, the hook tapping gently against the doorframe. Not out of courtesy, but as a warning. Sometimes there is still someone alive inside, and the sound gives them a moment to make themselves known or to flee deeper into the shadows. The door creaks open just enough to reveal the dim interior. The air that escapes is colder than the morning outside, carrying with it a smell far worse than the streets. It is a stillness you can taste, metallic and sour, the scent of breath that has stopped and skin that has cooled. Inside the room is small, a single bed pushed against a wall of cracked plaster. Upon it lies a figure thin as the mattress beneath them, mouth parted as if waiting for a final word that never came. You do not step closer than you must. The pole's hook catches the coarse fabric of the blanket, and with slow, practiced pulls, the body slides free. Its limbs do not resist. They fall into the rhythm of gravity, moving not like flesh, but like an abandoned garment emptied of its wearer. The sound of the body settling into the cart outside is soft, almost gentle, but it carries through the quiet street like a whisper no one wants to hear. Before you leave, you scan the corners, the shadows, the floor. Sometimes there is another smaller body, a child, a spouse waiting beside the first, as though they too chose silence over escape. Today the room is empty, save for the one, and you back away, closing the door as softly as it opened. The wheels of the cart groan as you move again. There will be other doors, other marks, other rooms where the air tastes of cold metal and dust. And with each one the day grows heavier, the cart slower, and the streets quieter still. Ahead the road widens, bending toward the outskirts where the earth waits open and raw. But before the graves, there are more houses, and the bell will not stop tolling just yet. The city thins behind you, its crowded lanes giving way to open fields where the ground is soft and damp. The road bends, and ahead a low hill rises, a place the townsfolk no longer name, though everyone knows its purpose. The earth here is raw, torn open by shovels, scarred by trenches deep enough to swallow whole families. It does not resemble a cemetery. Cemeteries are for the living, for prayers for stones etched with names. This place is different. It is not for remembrance, only for removal. Your cart groans as it halts near the edge of the pit. The air, already sour with the scent of decay, grows thicker still. It is a smell that clings to the soil itself, for even the ground cannot keep pace with the tide of the dead. The trench yawns wide, its sides caving from the weight of rain and time, and far below shadows mark where other bodies already lie stacked with little space between them. Limbs cross in strange angles, faces turned toward the sky or pressed into the earth as though even in death they sought escape. The overseer waits at the edge, his cloak drawn close, his voice low. There are no rites, no words of comfort. The church has long since stopped sending priests. There are too many dead, too few hours, and too much fear. Instead, there is only the rhythm of the work lift, carry drop. Each body thuds against the others, muffled by blankets, by rags, by the sheer weight of the pile. The sound is not loud, but it carries echoing in the hollow pit, like a whisper that the earth itself will one day swallow. Some collectors avoid looking down as they work. Others cannot help but stare, their eyes drawn to the emptiness of the faces below. You keep your gaze fixed on the ground by your feet, the damp soil darkening with every passing hour. Each load grows heavier, not just with flesh and bone, but with the knowledge that soon perhaps the cart may carry you as well. When the last body is lowered and the trench is filled, the earth does not sit flat. The soil is mounded uneven, as though the ground itself rejects the burden. There are no markers. By morning, there will be nothing to distinguish this hill from the next save for the memory of those who carried the dead here. The cart is empty now, its wood still warm from the weight it bore. Ahead lies the road back into the city, where more doors wait, and the bell still tolls. But the sun is dipping lower, and with dusk comes another kind of weight, one not found in the cart, but in your chest. By the time the last rays of sunlight fade, you are no longer a part of the city. Not truly. Though your boots tread its streets, though your hands haul the weight, no one else dares touch you, walk as a shadow among the living. The shutters that open to drop their marks by day close faster when they glimpse you by night. Mothers draw their children away. Even the stray dogs slink into the alleys rather than cross your path. It is not just the stench that follows you, though it clings to your cloak, your hair, your very skin. It is something deeper, a kind of invisible mark, as though death itself has written your name on the air around you. You have touched the untouchable. You have walked through rooms where the silence was so complete that it felt as if the walls themselves had died. The city sees you now as part of that silence, not entirely living, not entirely gone. When your cart is stored for the night and the hook is leaned against the wall, you do not find rest among others. Taverns once loud with laughter and the smell of roasting meat fall quiet when you step inside. Patrons shift in their seats, their eyes sliding away, their voices softening to whispers. No one wants to share a bench with the man who spends his days among the dead. If they do, it is only out of pity or because fear has made them too polite to ask you to leave. Even at home, if you can call it that, the distance lingers. Neighbors avoid your eyes. They leave food by your door rather than speak to you. When you catch your reflection in the basin's water, you barely recognize the face, staring back the hollows beneath your eyes, the dull cast to your skin, the way your lips rarely part except to breathe through that vinegar-soaked rag. Fear settles on you like another cloak, heavier than the one you wear by day. You fear the cough that echoes in your chest each morning, wondering if it is the chill of the air or the first whisper of something worse. You fear sleep, for in dreams, the silence of the rooms you've emptied follows you, pressing down like a weight you cannot lift. And yet when the bell tolls again with the gray light of dawn, you will rise. You must. The city may shun you, whisper about you, even curse you. But when the carts need pulling, there is no one else. The living may fear you, but they need you still. Beyond the city walls, the sun will rise again. And with it, silver coins will clink into your hand, just enough to keep you fed, though never enough to silence the dread that grows heavier with each passing day. The morning after always begins the same, a handful of coins pressed into your palm, cool and light, as though the overseer is paying for a service rather than a burden. Silver sometimes, copper more often. And when the coffers run thin, a wedge of hard bread or a bundle of onions will do. The city does not care what keeps you alive, only that you keep pulling the cart. The silver, when it comes, gleams faintly in the gray light, but its shine carries no comfort. It is not a reward, it is a reminder. Each coin is earned by lifting the limbs of strangers, by watching the shutters close a little faster each day, by breathing the foul air that lingers in your lungs long into the night. You turn the coins over in your hand, feeling their weight, wondering how much a man's soul is worth when measured in bits of metal. It is not much you decide. There are nights when the pay is given in food alone, when the overseer shrugs and mutters about empty coffers. A loaf of barley bread so dense it could break a tooth. A hunk of cheese with a rind so tough you must scrape away mold before biting down. And yet you take it. Not because it is fair, but because hunger is a sharper master than pride. Some whisper that collectors are paid more than they deserve, that silver is wasted on those who drag the dead, that the city is foolish to feed men who smell of grave dirt and vinegar. But those whispers fall silent when the carts stop. When the streets fill, and the dead remain where they lie, the same voices grow desperate, calling for the very men they scorned. It is then you realize the coins, the bread, the cheese are not payment. They are ransom. The city buys your labor not because it values you, but because it fears the world without you. Yet the silver does not last. It never does. By week's end, it finds its way to the baker, the brewer, the seller of dried herbs that promise to purify the air around your bed. Each coin vanishes like the names of the bodies you carry, leaving you with only the smell, the rag, and the cart. Another dawn creeps closer. The bell will ring, and you will rise again. But before the cart creaks to life, there is a moment of stillness, one where your hands tremble, not from hunger, but from something colder, a thought that presses in as the days grow longer, what becomes of those who live their lives beside the dead. There comes a moment after enough days when the line between the living and the dead begins to blur. Not in truth, you still breathe, your heart still beats, but in feeling. The city no longer greets you as one of its own. You walk the streets like a shadow, and each time you lift another body, the weight is not only of flesh, but of something colder, heavier, the quiet realization that you are becoming more like what you carry than those who pay you to do it. At first you counted the faces. Every man, woman, and child you placed on your cart, you told yourself you would remember. But memory is a fragile thing when every hour brings another. Faces turn into shapes, shapes into numbers, numbers into nothing at all. It is easier that way, or so you tell yourself. Easier not to notice the tiny hand slipping from a blanket, or the way an open eye still glints in the dim light, as though expecting to see the sky again. Nights offer no escape. When you lie down, there is no silence, not truly. Behind your closed eyes, the streets remain the faint toll of the bell, the creak of wheels, the smell that seeps through even the deepest breath. Sleep comes, but it is a shallow thing, broken by dreams of hands tugging at your cloak, of whispering voices asking why they were left in piles rather than laid to rest. You wake with your pulse quickened and your throat dry, the taste of vinegar still clinging to your tongue. You notice changes in yourself. Your voice grows quieter, your steps slower. You avoid mirrors and water because your reflection looks more like those in your cart than the people who hurry away when you pass. Your hands, though, still warm, feel foreign, as if they no longer belong to a living man. And in quiet moments, when the city sleeps and the moonlight pools across your floor, you wonder if death itself lingers near, not yet to take you, but to walk beside you, patient and unhurried, as though the two of you are companions now. And still you rise when the bell tolls. Not because you wish to, but because the living cannot abide the dead left untended. Your life, such as it is, has become a rhythm of wait, silence, and waiting. waiting for the cart to empty, waiting for the sun to rise, waiting for the day when your breath too will still. Tonight, as the moon lifts over the rooftops, another sound carries through the streets, the distant growl of the wind, the low moan of shutters. Night is coming, and with it the streets change once more. When night settles over the city, the streets no longer resemble the ones you walked beneath the sun. The air grows colder, and with the cold comes a silence so deep that even your own footsteps seem too loud, as though they do not belong in this place. The moon, pale and thin, spills a dim light over the rooftops, but it does little to cut through the shadows. Every alley yawns wider in the dark. Every corner feels deeper, as if the city itself is holding its breath. The work does not end when the sun sinks. The plague does not wait for dawn. There are always houses where the marks go up after dusk, where a family finally opens their shutters to reveal another still form lying within. At night, you and the others move more slowly, not because the cart is heavier, but because the darkness feels alive. The wind slides through the streets in long, hollow moans, rattling shutters, stirring the dry leaves that gather near doorsteps. Sometimes you hear footsteps behind you, soft and fleeting, but when you turn, there is only the empty street lit faintly by the wavering glow of your lantern. Your senses sharpen against your will. A creak of timber above you makes your shoulders tense. A faint cough from an unseen window sets your teeth on edge. And always, there is the bell distant steady tolling every so often as a grim reminder that somewhere another mark has been drawn, another door waits to be opened. The sound seems louder at night, as though the darkness carries it farther, embedding it in the hollow spaces between your breaths. The dead, when collected under moonlight, seem different. Their faces, drained of color, reflect the pale lights so that their eyes appear almost open even when sealed. When the cart rattles over uneven stones, a limp arm might shift a foot, might scrape against the wood, and in the stillness those faint movements feel less like chance and more like some quiet protest from beyond. You tell yourself it is only the jostle of the cart, only the tricks of the night air, but your grip tightens on the handle all the same. By the time the watchman's horns sound announcing the final hour before dawn, you are exhausted, though sleep will not come easily. The streets will quiet, the lanterns will be snuffed out, and yet when you close your eyes, the sounds remain: the low wind, the toll of the bell, and the faint shuffle of something unseen just beyond the reach of your lantern's glow. And when the first pale light of morning breaks, it is not only the streets that awaken. There is a tickle in your throat now, a heaviness in your chest, and a fear you try and fail to swallow. The first cough is always quiet. A dry tickle, nothing more. You tell yourself it is the morning air, the damp mist that clings to your throat as you push the cart along the stone streets. But the next day, the tickle deepens. The air feels heavier when you breathe, as though your lungs are filling not with wind, but with something thicker, slower. You try to ignore it. There is work to do, doors still marked pits, still yawning carts, still waiting to be filled. But each step feels heavier now, not just from the weight of the dead, but from the weight in your chest. When you stop to rest, your breath comes quicker, sharper, and the sour tang of vinegar from the rag no longer masks the bitterness rising from your lungs. The others notice, though, they do not speak of it. Collectors do not talk about sickness. It is an unspoken rule. To name it is to make it real, and none of you wish to give it that power. Instead, they keep their distance, their eyes flicking to you when you cough, their boots scraping quietly as they edge a little farther along the road. Even among the outcasts, the dying become lonelier still. By the time evening falls, the signs are harder to dismiss. Your skin feels hot, then cold, then hot again, as though your body cannot decide which way to lean. Your joints ache, your head feels heavy, and the sound of the bell, the same dull toll you have heard every day now, feels closer, louder, as if it rings only for you. When you touch your neck beneath the edge of your cloak, your fingers find a tender swelling, small but undeniable. You know what it means. You have seen the same signs on countless others before they joined your cart. Some lived for days, some for hours. Few saw another sunrise. That night, when you finally lay on your bed, the shadows on the walls seem deeper than before. The air feels thick, and even as exhaustion pulls at your limbs, sleep does not come. In its place comes the weight of the day, the memory of every shutter, every door, every body pressing in until the room feels as narrow and airless as the trenches beyond the city walls. And in the stillness, as the first fever sweats rise, a question curls into your mind when your time comes. Will there be hands to carry you, or will the cart you once pulled simply wait outside your door? When the fever grows too strong for you to rise, the world beyond your door fades into a distant hum. The bell still tolls faint, but steady somewhere far away. You no longer reach for the cart. You no longer tie the vinegar-soaked rag across your mouth. The tools that once defined your days lean unused against the wall, gathering dust as the hours bleed together. At first, you expect someone will come. A fellow collector, perhaps, or the overseer who pressed silver into your hand so many mornings. But no one knocks. No footsteps approach your door. The others know, of course. They saw the way you faltered on the road, heard the rasp in your breath, noticed the fevered glaze in your eyes. And like every house you have visited, yours is marked now not with paint, but with silence. Food stops appearing at your threshold. The neighbors who once left bundles of bread and cheese without a word avoid your street entirely. Through the haze of your fever, you hear the sound of their shutters closing, their voices muffled behind wood. They fear what lingers in your breath, the invisible shadow coiling in your chest. And so they leave you to it. Alone. The days lose their shape. Light filters through the cracks in the shutters, gray in the morning gold by midday, red by evening, until it is dark again. Your body feels both heavy and insubstantial, as though the mattress is swallowing you whole. Sometimes you dream of the streets, the creak of the cart, the soft thud of bodies, the toll of the bell. But when you wake, it is only to the sound of your own breath, shallow and uneven, and the distant moan of the wind beyond your walls. There is no priest to murmur prayers, no hand to cool your brow. No one will light a candle for you, nor whisper your name when the last breath leaves your lips. When the fever finally burns low and your limbs grow still, there will be no one to close your eyes. Perhaps if the bell reaches the right ears, a cart will come by in the morning. Perhaps not. The silence in your room is complete now, heavier than the air itself. You remember the faces of those you carried the way their homes felt just before you took them away, empty, still waiting. And now your own walls carry that same stillness. Outside, the city stirs faintly. The carts roll the bells till the trenches open. Life moves as it always does, even as your own draws to its quiet end. When the fever finally claims you, the world does not pause. The cart will come, as it has for so many others, though no one will know the name of the man it carries this time. There is no marker to set you apart, no cross, no inscription carved in stone. You will be placed in the trench like those you once collected, another shadow, folded into the earth, another shape, among the countless who vanished beneath the soil. There will be no stories told about you. No families will gather years later to speak your name by candlelight. Even those who once worked beside you will not remember for long. The cart rolls on, and the city demands the living tend to its dead without dwelling on those who joined their ranks. You, like so many before, will become part of the silence that lingers behind the tolling of the bells. And yet, without you, the city might have collapsed beneath the weight of its own grief. The streets would have filled with bodies, disease spreading faster, fear turning neighbors into enemies. The collectors, those who walked beside death, cloaked in rags and vinegar pulling carts through alleys and fields, were the hinge on which survival turned. No one thanked them. No one built monuments in their memory. But because of their hands unsteady, though they were the living, endured. Your legacy, if it can be called, that is not in stone or song. It is in the quiet continuation of life itself. In the baker kneading dough, the next morning in the church bells ringing for worship, rather than warning in the market stalls opening, as though the streets were never emptied. The world moves forward, and your part in it fades like breath in cold air, unseen but present. If someone were to walk past the mound where you were buried, they might not notice the uneven earth. They might not know how many lay beneath, or that among them is the one who once bore the weight of hundreds more. But the city stands, and its people wake, because you walked when others hid, carried when others turned away, and faced what no one wished to face. And as the bells toll once more, calling the next cart into motion, your story drifts into the same silence you once carried with you, a silence heavy, enduring, and unmarked. And so as the final cart rattles away, and the last trench is covered beneath a mound of heavy earth, we leave behind the nameless souls who bore the weight of humanity's darkest days. They were not heroes, not saints, not figures etched into history with songs or statues. They were the overlooked, the desperate, the forgotten, yet, without their hands shaking calloused and weary, the cities of their time might have collapsed into ruin and despair. Their lives ended as quietly as they were lived, without farewell or remembrance, and yet their work allowed life itself to continue. In the silence of the streets, they cleared in the faint return of laughter, to the marketplaces and the sound of church bells ringing once more for worship instead of warning. Their unseen legacy endures. They were bridges between the dead and the living, a grim necessity that no one wished to acknowledge but all relied upon. As you rest tonight, perhaps you will think of them not with dread, but with a strange kind of gratitude. For every era darkened by pestilence, it was through the toil of such unseen hands that the world stumbled forward toward dawn. And though no stones bear their names, no candles are lit for their memory, the quiet continuation of life owes much to those who walked beside death so that others might carry on. Until next time, I remain Silas Whitmore, wishing you stillness, warmth, and gentle dreams. And, as always, dear listener, if this story has eased your mind toward sleep, leave a 1 in the comments. If it has not, then be kind enough to press like before you drift away into the quiet.